Want to make sure we're compliant with YouTube, or if they will not let us record. So, all right. Well, I know AI has been around for a little bit, so I wanted to dive a little deeper into AI. So hopefully you can start to use some of these tools in your business a little deeper. I think everybody knows who I am, but I'll just quickly introduce myself. My name is Drew Demery. I am a realtor. Actually, on my 21st year. I started back when my baby was brand new, and she's turning 21 this year, actually in 2 weeks. So I can't believe I'm 21 years into business. I've also been a coach for going into my 10th year. And so we're an independent coaching company, coach people all different production levels, all different brokerages. So that's a little bit about me. All right. So one of the first things we're just going to start with is that these are the three things that really in AI world, especially for real estate agents, we just got to continue to chip away at our skill level is just how to use AI better with asking better questions. You probably have asked AI some questions and it's given you wrong information that's connected to the prompts you're using. So we'll talk about that today a little bit. Also, is just make sure that AI has got that human part of it. I think, unfortunately, realtors, we've swung a little too far to the left or to the right as far as using AI. I don't know if you've seen those like crazy posters where you'll see them on social media and they have like tons of graphics and tons of information. So just be careful. We'll talk about that a little bit. You know, AI is a great tool, but it still doesn't get it right. And if you wouldn't put your face on it, brand on it, your name behind it, do not post it on social media or give it to a consumer. And then the last one is probably the biggest one. AI is really helping agents kind of work through their daily workflow. We know in real estate, you got to put out fires constantly. You got to keep up with marketing. You got to keep up with prospecting. You got to keep up with all that. And so it's allowing agents to be a little bit more efficient, specifically the solo agent, where maybe they don't have an assistant, or if they do, it's part time. It allows the solo agent to be a little bit more efficient with her time. Honestly, it gives them some checklists and things that may keep their focus a little more. So I'm excited how I think AI is going to keep and continue to grow, right? So right now, data says that we are about 68% of agents are using AI, but the bad news is only about 20% of us are using it daily. Um, I now personally use AI. So we'll go through them specifically, like more than I use Google, right? It provides a lot more data, a little bit more current and specific to what I need. So I would just say if you're kind of new to the AI, maybe you pop in once a week, twice a week. It's going to become part of our daily routine. So the more you can play around with it, the more you can interact with it. I think that's going to help your learning curve. Of course, trainings help, but I've always said trainings are best practices. The real life is you using it. Okay. So the last year, some things have changed. You probably have noticed they've gotten a lot better. So I think all of us pretty much a year ago started with ChatGPT. And I remember very early on, I would ask certain things and it would tell me the wrong information. Also, graphics were kind of weird back in the day. I remember having like six fingers, one image, my ear was missing. Like it was pretty crazy. It's definitely got a lot better. In fact, specifically ChatGPT, their quality of their photo images and the AI, you probably have seen it on social media. Sometimes you can't even tell it's AI, which is super creepy, but at the same time, it allows us to kind of change and adapt some of the stuff we're doing. So I definitely think in the last year, the quality of the graphics has gotten better. So you probably are seeing that too. These are some examples of just things that have gotten so much better, right? So now I can throw it in ChatGPT and say, hey, add virtual staging, right? Declutter this kitchen counter. I remember back in the day, we used to use a company called like, what is it, Brownie Box or Box Brownie? And we used to pay like $5 or $10 for photos to get them virtually staged. Now you can do it for free. Of course, in real estate world, you have to disclose if it's not really staged, but you can see in these graphics, these are real photos, but they've been graphically enhanced. So pretty cool. I know specifically I'm in like the property management or rental world. I use a lot of this because let's be honest, rentals, sometimes the tenants don't keep the house perfectly clean. So when you take photos, they're not like camera ready. So some of these tools have helped specifically some of my property management clients. Okay. Um, and then the last thing is it's getting better at being more logical about answering your questions. We'll go into Claude a little bit in a second. It actually asks you clarifying questions. So maybe I ask it a question and it doesn't quite understand what I'm trying to get the answer to. It'll ask some more logical questions, which helps get a better result. So I definitely think AI is getting better from the last year where you'd put in a question and give you an answer, but it was completely the wrong answer, right? And if you're not careful, if you didn't read it and you post it on social media or you send it an email, it was actually the wrong information. So just want you guys to be aware. It's still not perfect, but I definitely think it's getting better. And then the last thing is I remember teaching class about a year ago about AI, and there was probably like 16 different AI apps and tools. Those still are around, but there's two or three that are kind of the core, and they've been more affordable. They're all about 20 bucks a month, which I know we can $20 ourselves to death, so be careful about that. But I do think just through healthy competition, AI is getting more affordable because it's kind of the bigger AI brands are coming out, and some of the little, unfortunately, startups are kind of dwindling away. So I think it's just less confusing for us as the consumer because when you have 16 choices, sometimes you have choice paralysis. So, all right. So the last section before we go into the little demo sections, I want you to be careful. Like it still needs you to ask questions, be more consistent with your prompts, which we're going to talk about that real quick. And also, the more you use AI, the better it gets. It's just like, I don't know, just like anything, if the more you use it, the more it gets to know you. AI is built on a history and consistency. So I use it every day, and it basically creepily knows a lot about my personal life, professional life, habits, all that. So it gives you better information because it knows you. It's like your personal assistant. Okay. So one of the first thing I want to just remember, and this is a little thing you can print out, I'll send it to you, is your prompt or like what you're asking the AI tool to do is super important. So if you put something in there and it doesn't give you a good answer, it's probably because you gave it a wrong prompt. So I always say this is kind of like recipe for like a cake. Like all the ingredients have to go in there or the cake is not going to turn out the way you want it, right? And so first one is you have to use it on what role. So the reason why it's so important is I use AI for everything, right? So if I'm cooking, I use AI. If I'm organizing my office, if I'm asking questions about my coaching clients, I'm asking questions about real estate, mortgage, I ask it a ton of questions. It gets confused on what role you are. So if you're in, like, I was asking a question about plants this morning, it assumes I'm still talking about plants, right? And then I'm now going to throw a real estate question in there, it's going to throw it off. So if you're getting the wrong answer, the role is important. So act like a real estate agent. It now goes, oh, he's in real estate mode, not parent mode or plant mode or dog mode, right? It specifically knows what kind of lens you're trying to go after. Context is really more hyper local. So make sure, I know I coach people in different states and different cities. That's really important to it knows where you're at, specifically Virginia, Richmond. You can go really specific to your town. It could be your zip code, MLS number. The more narrow you're going to get, the better it's going to be. 3, 4, and 5 is just what the output is, right? So audience, goal, and tone. Who are we trying to talk to? What's the point of what do you want to input or export at the end of this? And then the tone, it generally knows your tone, but I honestly sometimes it comes off a little bit too stiff for me. So I have to say conversational, friendly. I have to get that tone a little bit better because you guys know, the tone of your email or the tone of your text is going to be super important to relay that information. So this is a good little quick guide on how to do that. One thing I also did provide, and I'll send it in the email recap, is I gave you some really cool prompts. These are prompts that AI is generated, so these are specific ones. So if you're doing any marketing prompts, literally the cool thing that I would do is just copy and paste this. So let me give another one. So let's say this is the buyer one. So if you're going to prep for you can actually copy and paste this prompt. Post show follow up. So maybe you're sending a text, right, to them. You can copy and paste that in. So the cool thing is that if you're and I'll send all these to you, you don't have to reinvent the wheel. You don't have to come up with the prompt, you know, if you're just not feeling inspired, or you feeling a little brain dead that day, you know, go in there. Like MLS descriptions, another one example, making sure it's, you know, using this prompt specifically will help you be better quality MLS description. Again, if you have a luxury description, um, different things like that. So we put those prompts together just to try to give you like an easy button so you're not so worried about the prompts. But it's super important. Okay. All right. Um, and then the last part is a little bit about fair housing. You have to make sure AI knows about fair housing. It doesn't assume that, right? So I've seen so many social media posts, videos that are created, descriptions in MLS that are completely against fair housing. And I know because I've seen it myself, because I've done it. You put it in chat or Claude, and it literally creates it. You copy and paste, but it cannot say things like perfect for young families, ideal for singles, Christian neighborhood, safe area. It's going to do that because it doesn't know the laws. So one of the things I did is I went to VAR, Virginia Realtor Association, because I'm in Virginia, and I actually downloaded the laws that are in Virginia, and then I took the code of ethics. I took um, all fair housing. I took all those documents and I uploaded it into Claude and then my AI, and I said, remember these documents and remember the rules that are connected to these. So the good thing about AI is you don't have to constantly remind it about the fair housing laws, but you do need to put it in there. So once you put it in there, it'll check that. Be one thing I love about Claude is you can create a rule and you literally say to Claude, hey, make sure this rule always applies. If I'm ever asking you to do a social media post, listing description, anything about real estate, it has to follow the rule of the fair housing MLS compliance and rules and regulations, right? And so it'll constantly kind of be aware of that. But again, if you're using Claude or Chat kind of generically and not telling it the laws, it's not going to know that. So be careful. You and I know these are all the protected classes that that specifically I coach a lot in Virginia, but these are the fair housing laws. The people that are protected, it has to know that because again, I think that's the number one thing that. And if you remember, like DPOR's rules or even national news, ignorance is not bliss, meaning you know the rule and you can't blame it on AI. You can't say, well, oh, I copied that from chat. It's not my fault. It is. Your job is to make sure whatever you put online or print or give to consumers, it follows those protections. So make sure you're not just using AI as a tool. So now we're going to dive into, I'm really using chat and Claude. I don't use Gemini. I don't know if anybody is. Gemini is definitely a great product. I'm curious just see how it'll grow. It's a great. I think it's gonna be the big guy in the room because it's owned by Google. It connects to all your Google products. So I do think Gemini is going to be one of the bigger AI tools for years to come because Google is such a big, honestly, a big money maker and it's connected to so much already. But I would say most of the people that I coach in real estate world chat is their first love, right? It's the first one that they started to use. It's the one that they're most comfortable with. It's the one they've grown up with, things like that. So we're going to talk about that a little bit and how Claude has come into the picture, just like kind of any American industry competition creates some interesting dynamics. So we're going to kind of walk our way through on that. Okay. So I am going to play a clip of this video. This video, he explains it better than I could probably explain it. It's an 8-minute video. I'm going to cut it down to like a minute and a half, 2 minutes. I just want you to listen to, he's basically what you're going to see is you're going to see he pulls up Claude and Chat, which are the two big AI tools, and he's going to put the same prompt in. And then you're going to see the difference between what Chat prompt and what the results were and Claude's prompt and what the results are. And you can come to your own conclusion. He's going to give you his opinion. It just is interesting. So I was always team Chat. And then, you know, literally probably the last 2 months, I've been probably using Claude more. I still pay for both Chat and Claude. So it's $20 a piece, which is just Oh, it is. Because I use chat for certain things in Claude, and I'll go into that. So I'm going to just play this little quick video. I'm going to probably speed up.
Claude.ai takes just a couple of minutes to.
So I'm just literally, I'm not going to make us all go through the same video because I don't have the attention span for that. But I do want to go through probably a minute and a half. So like lean back and let's listen to what he has to say.
Sign up and start using it for free. One of the problems I find and hear with ChatGPT is you write a prompt and you'll get something that's like technically correct, but it sounds generic. It sounds like a press release. It uses phrases like, I'm passionate about helping clients achieve their real estate dreams, things that no one actually says. So what do most people do? They go back to prompting, or they just accept the output because they think to themselves, well, this is faster and easier than if I were to have written this myself, or if I would have done this myself. So we have this tendency to accept mediocre outputs coming out of ChatGPT just because it's easier than if we were to have done it ourselves. But the problem then is we sound like bots, we sound like everybody else, and it's clear to everyone that we're using ChatGPT to produce those communications and to do that work. So what makes Claude different, or what makes it better than ChatGPT? There are 3 reasons why. The first one is that it's just a better writer. Whether you're writing for marketing, whether you're writing for social media, whether you're writing for a client communication, Claude always writes with better output. It always produces a better output than when I compare it to ChatGPT. And the example I'm going to give you here shortly is producing an email. And we're going to get to see side by side which of these tools is better at following the instructions and producing the output that we want. Now, the second reason why Claude is better is because it does a better job at handling and processing long documents. Let's say, for example, you have a CMA or an inspection report, and you wanted to have AI give you some of the highlights or things that maybe you didn't pick up on in the first scan. Claude is going to do a better job at processing that document and pointing out the things that you would want to have pointed out to you than ChatGPT does. And the third thing that Claude is better at is just being able to follow instructions, especially multi-step instructions. Claude has a better framework, better subroutines, so that when it comes to understanding a multi-step instruction, for example, let's say writing an email and then maybe sending that email out, or whatever those steps are, it does a better job at doing what you've asked it to do. So we're going to do a side-by-side comparison here with Claude and ChatGPT. And here's the prompt. I'm going to tell it to write an email to a seller whose home has been on the market for 47 days with no offers. We need to discuss a price reduction. The original list price was $575, and I want to recommend reducing it to $549. Keep it professional, empathetic, and direct, no fluff. Now I'm going to put that in an incognito window so it doesn't rely on my other conversations that I've had with it. And then I'm also going to copy that, fire that off. I'm going to do the same thing in ChatGPT, except for I'm going to put it into a temporary chat, again, so it does not get influenced by the other things that I've had, in the other conversations that I've had. Okay. Both tools are done processing, and immediately we can see some differences between the 2 outputs before even getting into the writing itself. One of the things that Claude has done is it's given us 2 different versions. There's version A, which is direct and data-driven, and then version B, which is empathetic and collaborative. Also, we can see here, there's an easy way to copy it, and we can even send this through our Gmail or through our email tool. So it makes it really easy to go from draft to sending this email out. Now, compare that to ChatGPT, and what ChatGPT has done is it's produced a single email. Now, let's get a little bit more into the details. I'm going to read the one that Claude put together here for the first one, which is the data-driven version. It says, hi, seller name. I wanted to be straightforward with you. 47 days on the market with no offers is meaningful feedback from buyers, and I think it's time we respond. Now let's compare that to what ChatGPT said. I wanted to check in regarding your home's time on market. At 47 days with no offers, we're getting clear feedback from the market that the current price is limiting buyer activity. In this case, I feel like Claude has done a better job at just being concise, to the point, and kind of a hard-hitting opener, whereas ChatGPT gave it a I wanted to check in with you approach. Now, let's take a look at the second paragraph from Claude. When we listed at 575, we were testing the top of the range based on the available comps. The market has spoken clearly. At that price point, buyers are not converting. They're looking, but they're not writing offers. That tells us the home is priced above where serious buyers feel comfortable. Here's what ChatGPT says. To better align with buyer expectations and increase traction, I recommend adjusting the price from $575 to $549. This positions the property more competitively, broadens the pool of potential buyers, and helps us avoid becoming stale in the market. Both are communicating essentially the same thing. I personally like the word selection and cadence that Claude has written. Now, scrolling down, what I really like about what Claude has put in here is it puts the recommendation and then it has an explanation of why those numbers make sense. And there's a series of bullet points explaining why that is, and then wrapping it up. And ChatGPT does not do that sort of explanation.
So just wanted to quickly, that's kind of, we don't have to go through the 8-minute video, but you can just see side by side, and I could have done the same thing, but I felt like this was already done. I do think it would be interesting for you to play around with Claude and play around with chat. I have both up all the time, and I use chat a lot, and then I use Claude a lot. And so I sometimes will put it in Claude. I don't like what that's going on there, so I'll put it in chat, and I like that better. So the conversation is, should I buy one or the other? I hate to say this, but I think, at least this is what I'm doing, and I'm seeing results. I think you're going to probably have to have both. And I know that seems annoying, but Claude graphics are not great. Chat is definitely got the image quality well. I do think they do a good job. Also, Chat does a good job of creating good, solid content, text for social media. Again, but Claude, like in this example, when you're corresponding with your consumer, your seller, your buyer, I do think Claude has a better way of hitting that. And so his example, I know he's probably a little biased, but I tend to agree with kind of where he's at. And so this is kind of the little bit of the overview of like, if you were to split screen the benefits, Claude definitely has some benefits right now. Uploading files, one of the things he mentioned is uploading a PDF of a purchase agreement, a listing agreement, home inspection. I definitely will tell you, I think that that Claude has a better, it scans and does those conversations a little better. And I'm not going to go through all these, but you can definitely see there's pros and cons to both. Just like the world, there's never usually one tool that does it all for us. So I will say, if you're team chat, I'm okay with that, but maybe dip your toe into Claude. If you are into Claude, maybe dip your toe into chat. Um, at the end of the day, it's whatever tools you use and are the most productive for you. Okay. So one thing we're going to do real quick is I want to just show you, and I'll have to, let me segment out of this, is just some simple ways that you can do some social media graphic stuff using, so let me get rid of some of these. So let me pull up my chat. So again, I typically use chat for more social media stuff. So I had a conversation literally before this, and we were talking about mortgage rates and interest rates. And I know we all get things from lenders and what are, so this is an example of something that we did this morning. So we literally went on the federal website, freddiemac.com, and this is the current situation. And so what we basically did, and this is what we constantly do, is I just take a little screenshot of the current situation, right? There it is. And then what I do is I go into chat. I always do voice dictation. I think it does better than if you were to write it. So I literally say, create a social media graphic for mortgage information using this screenshot. And so there it is. And then we'll pop it in there. So all I did literally, let's say it's Mortgage Monday, or you're gonna do Interest Rate Friday, or whatever it is. Again, it's already got, that's a federal regulated website. It's not, it's not someone's like a mortgage lender or anything like that. So it could be maybe more generalized. The one thing I love about this website is updated every Thursday. So that kind of is nice. It's Freddie Mac, right? So it comes from the horse's mouth, kind of things like that. So once it creates the little thing, it'll pop in. I'm going to just jump because based on time, I already did it. So I did this exact same thing just a few minutes ago. I literally said create the graphic of the social media, and this is what it is. So it literally recreated a great little graphic, the date, interest rates. I love the kind of the fluctuation up and down. I love that it's already sourced properly. You download that baby and you can go on social media. So the reason why I'm using this example is this is great for imagery. So social media graphics, if you're doing mortgage, if you're doing anything like that. I also, I did one, let me see if I can just go back and find it. I could probably, recreate it. But I pulled my local MLS some marketing data. So basically, what I did was I asked, so I pulled, let me go up and I'll show you what I did. Um, so I dictated. So I literally pulled up my local MLS and I verbally said out loud, I just read my screen to AI. So this is me talking. So this is the information. So I'm literally pulling the market data from my MLS. And so I told it to create an MLS thing. It automatically created this. Before AI tools, I literally had a template in Canva. I would have to pull up my MLS. I'd have to update the little information. I'd have to put the up arrow, down arrow. I'd have to pull this number. This would probably have taken me in my old style, probably 15 to 20 minutes. Not huge time consuming, but now it's quickly, right? So I can log in, I can go in here, tell it the information I can pull. And then I asked it, so this is for single family. I asked similar questions and said, hey, I want you to do townhomes, but I want to compare it to single family and townhomes. So the cool thing is that you can be the expert, but don't have to be a graphic artist. You also don't have to spend hours creating all this stuff. You're just pulling the data together, right? So I just wanted to give you an indication. Again, this is in chat. This is where it really is great, where you can kind of use different things for that. Okay. So just want to let you know like that marketing updates, mortgage updates, anything like that, I definitely think that that could be a cool thing. So we kind of talked about that a little bit. And then again, click on the microphone, dictate it. I'm talking to myself in my office all the time, but it sometimes is a clearer way to communicate. And then it gets, you got the ums and you got all that, but it is definitely a kind of a cleaner way to do it. Second thing that I see a lot of people doing is uploading PDFs. Specifically have a client that this is our MLS here in Virginia. And so uploading the PDF and then asking it to create like an over cover sheet. So this has been super helpful. A lot of agents are now using this in their buyer packets. So they're, meeting with the potential buyer, they're talking, doing the typical buyer consultation, but the purchase agreement is intimidating to maybe a first-time home buyer. Creates a cover sheet. This has literally been created for you, and it's in a Word document. Here it is, right? And so you now have a little cover sheet, and all that was created because you went again, you threw it in there, and you kind of had a way to do that. So if you have sellers or buyers that truly aren't reading the contract, let's be honest, when you're sending it through Authentisign or DocuSign, they're just digitally signing a document. Some of them don't read it, right? Many of them don't. So I've always coached people to always give your buyer and your seller a hard copy of a blank document when you first meet them and say, this is what you will be signing. This is a listing agreement. This is a purchase agreement. You need to make sure when you get it digitally from me, and when you sign it, you know what these paragraphs mean. So this might be a quick, cool way. Again, AI can help you clarify things. It's not a lawyer. You're not a lawyer, but it's a way to kind of simplify or dumb it down so the consumer feels like they kind of have a better comprehension. So I think that would be a great tool for you to use as well. The third thing is that when agents are creating what we call SOPs, SOPs, standing operating procedures, or you're just trying to create a checklist for yourself, open house checklist, make sure you're not forgetting things. If you end up hiring an assistant or a virtual assistant, sometimes you're like, oh, I don't know how to train this person because I just do it, right? Well, again, what we did was we went into chat, and I'm happy to send this to you, but these are separate checklists. So this is an open house checklist of all the things that you got to do. And it's very detailed. That's why it's so long. And it's great for an assistant. It's great for maybe an agent that's newer, or even somebody that maybe tends to go a little fast. Social media posts, some general stuff, obviously things you need to be consistent with: pop by system, micro event, home anniversary system, Google review system, listing appointment system, buyer appointment, listing transaction, buyer transaction. I did not create all this. I did not spend hours typing all this out. I did not do that. I did review it after chat gave me the response. I then deleted some things that didn't apply to me or something that I didn't feel is relevant. But I will tell you that that's another advantage. If you're trying to build a system, if you feel like you're unorganized, if you feel like there's, this would be a way to do that. So SOPs are examples, but I see so many different things that training systems, accountability trackers. If you're not lead genning consistently, create a little checklist for yourself, print it off, use it daily, things like that. So again, those are probably the top three things that kind of work in that world. So, I wanted to show you before we get into this, I wanted to show you a little bit about Claude. So Claude, again, has the one thing about Claude is it does connect the net directly to some apps. So I use Claude a lot and it actually sends me emails. So if you look, I've connected it to my Google Drive, calendar, Gmail. And so all I do is you go in to your settings and they have these things. I think um, it's called, they've moved it around a little bit. Connectors. And so these are my connectors. So these are the things I've connected it to, right? And so Canva, Gmail, Drive, Zoom, like these are the things I use it for. So it's just like anything, you can go in and add different ones. But once you connect it, it will actually send an email. So I literally have, let me show you a chat that I did recently. So I'm just gonna real quick. So I had a coaching client. My coaching client is Amy. I dictated some of the notes. So we talked about like a little recap of what we talked about. So what happens is at the end of this, it drafted an email. So it already had sent the email to me, and then I didn't send it to the consumer, but it sent it to me. So then I could actually send. So this is the notes right here. So it drafted it in my email. I didn't type a daggone thing. I just proofed it and made sure it looked correct. But again, this is an example of like, you don't have to copy and paste. So I want to give an example. And again, I'm going to stop the recording part because it's not going to like this. Because I'm going to, like I said, it doesn't like it's got confidentiality and privacy, so it can't really do that. So, all right, the last kind of chunk of time we have, I want to talk about completely different AI tools. So we talked about a little bit about chat, we talked a little bit about Claude. Now I want to talk about a interesting social media AI tool. It's called ManyChat. I'm seeing tons of people using it. I have barely dipped my toe in the water, I can be completely honest, but I have a lot of top producers that use it, especially if their primary marketing is Instagram and Facebook. So kind of wanted to just walk you through how cool this is, and it's definitely an interesting little AI tool. It has the free, which is like 25 different prompts, and then about $14 a month is what it needs to do. So I'm going to log in so you can see mine. This is what I just did the other day, kind of as a test, just to kind of show you guys an example of it. The cool thing is that it plugs directly into your social media, um, Instagram or Facebook. So let me go into this mini chats right here. So I created a little mini chat, and then this is what they call the automation section. And I created it. So I literally do a new automation. I start from scratch and I build it. So this is the one that I did recently. So it literally looks like a little mind map. Like you can create these little bubbles. So I asked it to grab a specific post. I grabbed it from Facebook. It links directly. So in this example, I was like, hey, I'm going to create this little survival guide for agents through the summer. What the cool thing about ManyChat is it has specific words that causes what they call the trigger. So if you're in like any CRM, triggers are similar. Like if you do a drip email, a drip campaign, they always use triggers. So in this example, let me view on Facebook and I'll show you what it said. You may or may not have seen it, but I just wanted to show you. You have to tell, like, so if you've ever seen a video that says, hey, comment cheeseburger below and I'll send you the recipe, right? So in this example, I was like, hey, there's a little check guide, drop summer in the comments below, right? And so I would give it to them right away. So this is great if you're doing an open house, if you're doing a buyer or seller guide, downsizing. This is called a lead magnet, right? So somebody mentioned summer. I did not type that, mini chat did, and then it messages them. So how it did that was I linked it to the social media. I said, what's the trigger word? I put the word summer. I also put a couple extra words in there just in case someone typed something incorrect, things like that. So if anybody put the comment summer in the social media post, it automatically would send them a direct message, right? I also toggled this. This says public auto response feed. So this would reply to their comment underneath. And I can do multiple responses, which I can show you an example of that. So once I do that, then it just sends a direct message to the person, right? And so I can tell it whatever. So this is the little message. So here's your guide. And then I created a little button with a link to this guide. And I just literally created um, in Google Drive. I said, here's the little document. So the reason why I wanted you to bring this up is you can use this for a ton of things. If you're doing open houses, if you're trying to target single females, if you're trying to target downsizers, things like that. The cool thing is it responds to your text messages, it sends DMs. There's tons of data that says, I don't know if you've seen, but heard people say like, hey, link in my bio. Well, once someone sees your social media, whether Instagram or Facebook, and they go up to your bio to click on that Amazon cart or click on that, they get distracted. So the percentage of people actually going and doing it is almost, it's getting worse and worse. So the cool thing is that this gives them exactly what they want. So they commented, so this again, I did a video about this training and I said, mention the word training. And these are the little responses. I gave a few just to add some flavor. And then I said, here's the Zoom link, which is what we're watching today, right? So if you are someone in the social media space and we know it's engagement, it's not just the social media post, it's not just the video, you want to interact with your consumer, but you don't want to be on your phone 24 hours a day. I do think this AI tool is something to consider. uh, there's a lot of cool things to it. I'm just scratching the surface. The other one that I'm going to start working on is that you can actually create mini chat with a text message. So this is an example of a flyer open house. You'll create a customized text and it'll instantly send that to them, right? And so again, this is a great, again, ManyChat does this. So you could have this at the open house flyer. You could throw this on an open house sign. Once they text it, that they respond, they get that. It also captures the information and it sends it to them. So again, it's just allowing you to leverage some of the stuff you're already doing. So if you're a real estate agent not using ManyChat, I think this is definitely going to become part of it. All right, and the last couple things before we hop off is editing videos. So a lot of you are doing, I love like front-facing videos where you're talking to us, which is great. I've used CapCut for years, and honestly, now I've switched to Edits. So Edits is a meta business feed, and so it's a great way to do that. So the cool thing is that, in my opinion, number one, it's free. Um, and CapCut requires a lot of the pro stuff, which is paid for. So if you are a person that wants to do videos on social media, I'll just show you an edit one that I've done. Let me exit out of this. Why? Just showing you examples of mine just to give you. So this is one I did. That is in edits. So I just shot the video and then I can go in there and it'll obviously do the prompting. I can also, there's keywords that I want to maybe highlight, so I can highlight those in yellow. So I personally think edits is a super easy thing to use, especially a guy that doesn't I don't necessarily love video and I don't love editing video, but I just want to let you know that's a cool way to use some AI tools in your social media. So download edits and let me know what you think. If you're using CapCut, you love it, stick with it. But I think it allows you to kind of get some good stuff, reels and stories for that. And then the last thing is Otter. I use Otter on my phone when I'm in a meeting with someone, or I have Otter connected to my Zoom, which is currently what it is right now. So you and I probably have been on a listing appointment or a buyer appointment. And I give you this example because it happened all the time. When you meet with a seller, obviously you talk about your marketing, you talk about your price, but most often you're walking through the house and the seller is giving you updates like, hey, this is what I've updated, and you're taking notes like I've done that before, right? But Otter records all that and then it creates a summary. And it grabs stuff that I would have not written down, or there's details, specific things that the seller is saying that maybe I could put in the description. Maybe I could do different things. Also, if you're giving recommendations like repainting, new carpet, things like that. So I would use an app. There's a few of them out there, but there's AI apps that you can use to record your conversations, your phone calls, your meetings, or your Zoom meetings, and the summaries are impressive. I also find it interesting that you might talk about some personal stuff, and it doesn't include that. So it tries to stick to business, it tries to stick to the key points of the conversation, things like that. So if you're trying to stay connected to your consumer and not want to take notes and look down at your notebook piece of paper, I would recommend using an Otter or something like that. I have had other people use like voice memo on their phone and then pop it into chat or Claude and then create a summary that way. But just use AI to have better conversations and to track your notes better. Okay. Well, that's everything I have at the moment. If you want to reach out more about AI, there's probably 5 hours worth of stuff I could go over. The cool thing is right now, taking new coaching clients if you need a coach one-on-one. And the best part is that it's cheaper and it's less of a commitment. Normally, my one-on-one coaching is a 3 month minimum. Right now, it's 2 months, and normally it's $295 a month. That's the general pricing. But now we're doing this thing called a BOGO, so you get the second month half off. So for $147, you have a coach on the second month, $295. Just to give you a little bit of breakdown of like how coaching sessions work if you've never worked with me. Our first session usually is a build and review section. So we usually talk about your prospecting and your marketing plan. Our second session in the month is accountability. We audit your database. We make sure your pipeline is healthy. We go through your social media. So if you're feeling like you need a little kick in the butt, I'm here for you. The one good thing also is that you don't have to start right now, right? So if you schedule a session, book a little session, we'll chat 15, 30 minutes. We'll figure out when you want to start coaching. So if you're like, oh, summer's just too busy, I get it. Maybe we start in August or September. But in order to get kind of the BOGO sale, you do need to book like your initial consultation before the end of July. Okay. So that's kind of everything. I'll send you the recording. I'll send you the content. I'll send you the SOP doc. I'll send you the prompting doc. You'll get a good email from me with a good chunk of information. And remember, it's summer. And so I know the kids are out of school and the beach and the pool are calling you, but you know everything you're doing now is going to set you up for the fall market. So at least put in minimum 1 to 2 hours a day, head down, get the work done, and then go have some fun and relax and spend time with the family. But make sure you're consistently showing up each week. Okay. Well, that's everything. Let me stop recording.